Brooke Hogan's absence from her father Hulk Hogan's burial stirred widespread speculation and confusion among fans and media alike. For many, it was hard to imagine how a daughter could miss such a monumental moment in honoring her father. However, the reasons behind her decision were deeply personal, emotionally complex, and reflective of both her private grief and the nuanced relationship she shared with her father in his final years. In the wake of Hulk Hogan's passing, the world saw an outpouring of tributes, headlines, and speculation. Yet behind the public memorials and online condolences, Brooke Hogan chose a very different path to mourn the man she called her father. While much of the world expected her to stand by his casket, she stood instead by the ocean, far from the crowd, with her husband Stephen Alexei and their newborn twins, Oliver and Molly. For Brooke, this was not a moment for tradition or ceremony. This was about soul. It was about presence. It was about honoring not what others expected of her, but what she knew in her heart her father would have understood, and perhaps even preferred. Brooke later explained that her father had always disliked the solemn nature of funerals. He had expressed more than once that he did not want one. She felt that gathering at a beach he once loved, letting the waves touch her children's feet, was the most honest tribute she could offer him. It wasn't about the optics. It wasn't about being seen. It was about connection, a quiet and intimate farewell that fit the man she remembered. That decision may have surprised some, but for Brooke, it felt right. Beyond the spiritual and personal dimensions, there were also emotional layers to consider. For the better part of 2 years, Brooke had been estranged from her father. Their relationship had grown distant, shaped by differences, hurt feelings, and a silence that grew heavier with time. He had not walked her down the aisle during her wedding in 2022. He never met her children. These were not just missed moments. They were symbols of how far apart they had drifted. Though there was no public fallout, the emotional reality was clear. Their connection had frayed, and while love may have still lingered, their lives had moved apart in ways that reconciliation never managed to heal in time. Brooke's absence from the funeral was not rooted in bitterness or indifference. It was rooted in honesty. She knew their relationship was complicated. She also knew that attending the burial would feel more like performance than healing. And so, she chose healing. She chose space. She chose to mourn in a way that didn't reopen wounds, but instead allowed her to quietly reflect on the parts of her father she still held close. As tributes poured in and cameras rolled at the private ceremony in Florida, Brooke remained silent for several days, letting the noise pass. When she finally spoke, it was not to defend herself, but to explain. She shared on social media how her soul needed something different, how public grieving didn't suit the real story of who they were to each other. Some criticized her, others defended her, but the truth was hers alone. What complicated matters further was the public narrative surrounding Hulk Hogan's death. Official reports stated that he died of complications related to leukemia. Yet Brooke found the circumstances confusing. She claimed that he had recently shown good blood work. She questioned why no autopsy had been performed before he was cremated. These weren't the accusations of a bitter daughter. They were the genuine concerns of someone who was, despite the distance, still processing the sudden and seemingly unusual way her father passed. Brooke did not claim to know all the answers. She didn't push conspiracy, but she did express confusion. And in that confusion, grief often finds a very lonely space to sit. Amid this emotional storm, Brooke also found herself the subject of media stories that suggested she had been cut out of her father's will, or that she was seeking to claim some share of his estate. She denied such allegations outright. According to her, she had no interest in inheritance. She didn't want to be included in the will. She wasn't mourning a legacy of material wealth. She was mourning the absence of a relationship that never found closure. The rumors didn't stop there. Some voices from within Hulk Hogan's inner circle accused Brooke of being disloyal or disrespectful. She responded not with anger, but with firm boundaries. She made it clear that she would not allow others to manipulate the story of her grief. She even threatened legal action against those who attempted to spread lies about her or turn her mourning into tabloid fodder. In doing so, Brooke demonstrated not only emotional maturity, but also a willingness to protect her own peace, even in the face of public scrutiny. It's important to understand that grief does not follow a script. It doesn't adhere to expectations or timelines. For Brooke Hogan, missing her father's funeral did not mean she was absent from the reality of his death. In fact, it might mean quite the opposite. Her mourning was quiet, internal, and deeply personal. It did not need flowers, speeches, or a crowd. It only needed truth. In the final moments of her tribute, Brooke shared that she hoped people would respect her choice, even if they didn't understand it. She hoped the public would stop searching for scandal where there was only sorrow. She didn't pretend to be the perfect daughter, and she didn't pretend their relationship was picture perfect. But she did what she could with the truth she carried. In a world that often equates appearances with meaning, Brooke Hogan chose presence over performance. She chose to say goodbye not at a cemetery, but at the edge of the sea, with her children in her arms and the sound of waves in her ears. It was not the farewell the world expected, but perhaps in the deepest sense, it was the farewell her father would have most appreciated.